Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are about a year and some change later on episode 2 of Breakdown Theory, and we are honored by none less than Jacob from Promotive and now GhostLife, if I remember correctly.
That is correct.
How's it going?
It's going good. We just got back from tour with Promotive. We did about a week and a half on the road. I haven't put all my stuff back. My whole studio is still pretty empty. I kind of took the whole shebang with me, so I haven't really put anything back yet. But it's been good.
Yeah,
So far, so good.
I saw so you got a new song that's out. Was it Out of Time?
Time, yeah.
Yeah.
That's our most recent release. I want to say that came out in October, November, something like that. But that's the newest song we have out now. Depending on when this video comes out, we might have another single out.
Oh,
but
yeah. Sneak peek.
Yeah.
So with that, what I'd like to do for this one, kind of like what I did with a little bit with Stay Mel Ray, now as he's called himself, Xander Raymond Charles. Just kind of like your journey from like you discovering music, getting in touch with Mel, AJ, and you also added Mike. Or does he go by Mike or Michael?
Either or. Usually
Okay.
Michael.
Or
I call him Michael.
and adding Michael to the mix. And I mean, your work with Legator, was just phenomenal. Still is. I know that you guys put out another video. Was it this month, I believe, on the
I believe
10th anniversary?
Mm-hmm.
So where did it all start for you? Like, what was the moment that you kind of got interested in music, not just listening to it, but kind of hooked onto it? And then from there, like, was it an instantaneous thing? Like, I like this, I want to learn how to play, or did guitar come later on?
So I've kind of been surrounded by music my whole life. My dad was a musician, so he was constantly playing around the house. My mom was a little bit of a pianist as well. Both of my siblings were in choir for however many years, so I was surrounded by music kind of my whole life. My grandpa got me my first guitar at 5.
Oh, wow.
And I would pretend I knew what I was doing with it for a long time. And then I think around my freshman year of high school is when I finally thought, this could be fun to actually learn how to do. As far as like taking it a little bit more seriously, I think that came, oh gosh, probably coming out of high school. Because it all through high school, I was like, oh, it'd be so sick to start a band, to be this and that. But I had no idea what I was doing. None of us did. We were kids. But I think it was around 2014 or so when I finally started my first real band.
Mm-hmm.
And through various connections, eventually got hooked up with Mel. And he was the guy that recorded a single for a previous band that I was with that ended up turning into the first single for Promotive.
Really?
Funny enough, yeah. So he originally helped me record and arrange that song. And then when that project kind of fell apart, I went back and was like, "Hey, can we just like pull off all of the heavy parts and the screaming and kind of turn it into like a more pop punk song?" And then we did that. And he's like, like this is cool, man. If you ever like need a drummer, let me know. And I was like, "Funny you should ask." And so yeah, I've been working with Mel since. Yeah, I've been working with Mel for the last 6-7 years. Just he's a good dude. I'm happy to have him in my circle.
So you mentioned that your grandfather had gotten you your first guitar. Are we talking like a full legit guitar or like one of those kid type guitars?
It was a kid's guitar for sure. It was like a little acoustic guitar, but it was still a Fender. It was like a little Fender acoustic.
Mm-hmm.
So it was still pretty good. It wasn't just like one of those cheapy like ones you find at like the pawn shop or the swap meet where they're like, oh yeah, $20, take it. No, it was, he actually knew what he was doing because he was a musician as well. He actually for many years ran a church out of his base, or not his basement, but his I guess his garage, if you will. It was like a big room that he converted. But he had like drum sets and a bass and a piano and all guitars and a PA. He had a full thing set up there, so I would always go there and just mess around with stuff. And I think he was definitely one of the biggest catalysts for me to really get into music and really take it seriously. Because anytime I was like, I want to learn how to do this, he's like, all right, cool. Here's a book on theory or this or that, or here's whatever resource you need to succeed.
Man, that that's something. So when that was happening, how old were you when that was going on?
I was young. This was like as early as 5 years old, all the way up until I was 14, I would say 14 or
Wow,
15, and then even past that, to be honest. He was a big supporter to me for many years.
that's really really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest thing, like, kind of straying away from the music side of it, but I think a big thing for like that I appreciated was that even if it was something that I wasn't really at the time sure if I was going to do just for fun
Hmm.
or try and take a little bit more seriously, it was more of a, hey, this is something you're passionate about, and I'm not here to tear down your passions. So, do your thing. If you love it, great. If you don't, then, we tried.
Yeah,
I,
and
I think the biggest thing is just having that opportunity to try.
then last night I was going through and I was listening to some of the old like Sum 41, Blink 182, and when I was listening to you guys just to get a refresher, it's like your music fits, like it captures that same energy that they had back then. That I think a lot of people try to like force emulate and it just falls flat. So with that was like you mentioned that you had another project going first and then you slowly moved into Promotive. Like what was that transition? Was that like another hardcore like band, or was it like another something different than pop punk or punk rockish?
Yeah, I've always been in metal bands from when I started. Promotive is the first like not metal band that I've been a part of. I mean, I was in like an easycore band, but I kind of still count that as metal. Because it had breakdowns and screams. It's like it was basic. It was happy metal. Let's be honest with ourselves. Uh, but yeah, no. Every band I was in before was either metal, hardcore, post-hardcore, something like that. So I think Promotive was the first project where I really got to have my like pop punk influences and like the emo sound that I've really loved. Like the first time I finally got to actually do something with that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the stuff like with this first batch of Promoter songs that's out now, they've been songs that I've had in my back pocket for at this point almost 8, 9 years at this
Wow.
point.
Hmm.
Stuff I've been writing in the background of whatever band I was a part of. And I think when the last metal band I was in just kind of fell apart for one reason or another, I was just like, okay, well, I've tried enough with the metal thing. I think it'd be a fun time to just launch the pop punk project. I think it's time.
With you guys, it feels like you all take your time in writing a song, that it's not rushed or anything like that. Do you guys have like how often when you're writing, do you guys like is it a conscious choice of like that you ever find yourself like you're on the ball and you just keep writing song after song after song, or do you guys take your time purposely to let's just hone in on this and we'll put all these other ones like we'll put them to the side and we'll get to them after we get done with this one?
I think it's definitely a mix of both, to be honest, because especially very early on with this project, AJ and I met up a lot just to hang out and just write, and we were churning out song after song after song, and a lot of those are kind of still sitting in a folder. We have a big folder just full of like I can't tell you how many songs, like
Oh
songs,
man.
everything ranging from like little ideas to full blown songs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but usually, yeah, we'll meet up either individually or like two or three of us at a time and just collaborate on some stuff. And if it's cool, it's cool. But usually, the stuff that ends up getting released is songs that we think, okay, out of these, let's say 15, 20 songs, out of these 20, this is the best one. You
Hmm.
pull that one out, and all four of us collaborate on making that as good as it can be. And that can be anything from like, hey, what if we took this part and made it half as long? What if we took this part out completely? What if we changed this part and put it here instead? Things like that. What if we instead you had your delivery, your vocal delivery be a little bit more aggressive, or you had your vocal delivery be a little bit softer? Things like that. What if you had the playing be a little bit more, I don't know, legato as opposed to staccato? Things like that. Like very minor changes that
Mm-hmm.
eventually all build up to make a much better final result.
Like adding a kazoo.
Yes, exactly.
Oh
That's
man.
that's the funniest thing to me is that song. So Out of
Mm-hmm.
Time is the one with the kazoo on it. That started off as a saxophone, and there is still
Hmm.
a layer of saxophone in it. But that lead line, that little that whole
Mm-hmm.
thing is a mix of a guitar, a kazoo, a fake saxophone, a real saxophone, and a synthesizer, all stacked
Oh
up
man.
together. Yeah.
So was
So
that
it
like? All right, I gotta hear the story because it begs the question. Like, you all have like such amazing talent. Did someone just like have one sitting around from like a party or something, or like what? Whose idea was it? Like, oh, here, try the kazoo.
To be quite honest, I really don't remember how it
Oh
started.
man.
I just remember that we were writing the song, and I don't remember. Someone made a comment about a kazoo because I think we were watching that like Kazoo Kid video. It just kind of randomly popped up,
Hmm.
and I think it was Mel who was like, it would be funny if we like tried to put this in one of the songs." And then he's scrolling through Amazon. Is like, "Yo, I found an electric one." And we were just messing with it, and like for the first couple for the recording, it's just a
Hmm.
normal kazoo. And like live, I've started to use it for this last tour. Actually, I got to see if I can send you a video of it. But for this last tour, we ended up taking that electric kazoo, and the way it works is it's like a little like piezo microphone that you just shove into a little
Hmm.
sound hole,
Okay.
and it's got a little um 8-inch cable that plugs into whatever. So we took that cable and plugged it into that little Rode. You ever seen that little Rode lav mic thing? It's like a little
Oh yeah,
square
yeah,
little thing. We plugged it into that, plugged the receiver into our mixing board, and had it run parallel with my guitar chain. So we were able to get the kazoo running through a guitar amp. So it was so funny. I remember I think it was San Diego.
yeah. Hmm.
I bust this thing out and like it's a kazoo running through a guitar amp, and I see someone in the front row just like. So I think one of the things that we do with Promotive, like that I find to be the most fun, is just we like to kind of like to see how ridiculous we can get with a lot of things.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like it's an enjoyable type thing, you know. I saw Dragged Under, and I'm trying to remember exactly. I think it was Rivals. Um, I had to look at the poster and remember that show. It was awesome. But they had a section on there where it was just like entertainment, and it's like sometimes people forget that part, you know, of just being entertainers,
Yep.
and that's how you do it. Like it's nothing like too cheesy, too corny, or anything like that, but it fits with the vibe that you guys have. Like Mel
Yeah,
doing a
absolutely.
cartwheel onto stage.
Yep. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. Like I think a lot of people forget that being a musician is also equally being an entertainer. Like if this is something you plan to do for a living in any way, shape, or form, you got to be entertaining. Like be that live or even in a video setting. Like I see a lot of guys in videos just like
Yeah.
it's like look like you're having some fun. Like just even something as simple as just like enjoying what you're doing. Like
Oh
it
yeah.
goes a long way because whatever you put out is what you're gonna get back. If you're on stage and you're just like that, like the crowd's gonna reciprocate that. It's just like, okay, well if he's not having fun, why am I gonna have fun?
Yeah, that's something I've had to work on even like in my little videos is just learning to engage. I just get so sucked into the guitar where it's just like
Mm-hmm.
I get hyper focused and like in my head I'm like going off, but at the same time like you walk by and like are you okay?
Yeah.
But oh man, so with that writing your songs I've never been a huge emo fan per se. That's just due to most of my upbringing. But but at the same time, your songs and whatnot, they have a lot more meaning that I feel that does connect with a lot more people. And my personal favorite is definitely Under My Skin. Like that is so relatable.
Oh,
And
uncomfortable? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, Or yeah, uncomfortable. My bad.
You're
I was
good,
just
you're
thinking about the lyrics,
good. Mm-hmm.
but yeah, like when I heard that hook of "Why don't you get under my skin," I was just like, this makes sense, you know. So when you guys are writing, is it the lyrics? Is it just from you, or do all four of you collab on that, or how? What's the process that you guys go with that? Like, because as you were mentioning that, with music is very personal. Do you guys write from what you're experiencing, or do you write in the sense of that you're trying to connect with people as well?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both. Definitely, I feel like with this first batch of songs that we've done, they're songs I've had written for a long time, so I was the primary lyricist for most of them.
Mm-hmm.
Or there are a couple new ones that we're working on where like AJ's contributed lyrics and Michael and Mel have all contributed ideas. Um, Even something as simple as like, hey, can we write something about insert topic here? And even if they don't come up with lyrics themselves, having insert topic here, whatever they want a song to be about, I can take that and be like, okay, well, what about this thing? Do you want to talk about? What about this thing is um, is what's on your mind right now, if you will.
Right.
And so I can take those things and put those to words and kind of flesh out ideas like that. Because something as simple as that is like if I'm writing a song, it's like, well, I don't know what this is going to be about. Someone else can come out and it's like, well, there's this idea, and that goes a long way.
The songs that you guys have written so far, has there been one that means more to you than any of the other ones so far? I know it's kind of hard.
Really,
That's like
yeah.
picking your favorite.
It really changes. Because I like to think of music I like to think of music as a snapshot of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever part of your life you were going through, that's what you're going to write about. And like, for example, Tired was written during a time where I felt very lost and very meaningless in my life, where I didn't really know what I was doing, kind of running in circles trying to find some kind of answer. And that every now and again kind of becomes the song that I resonate with the most, because every now and again it's like, well, okay, what am I doing here? Like, what's going on? So sometimes that's the one that circles back in. I also have there's another song we have called Disconnect, which is about kind of losing touch with people, especially people you're really close to, like friends, family, partners, things like that.
Yeah.
And every time I lose a friend or I lose family or something like that, or I have to cut ties with someone, things like that. That's another one that I resonate with a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Uncomfortable, you mentioned Uncomfortable. That one is about not wanting to deal with uncomfortable situations, like not wanting to be confrontational when needed, or when someone approaches you about something, you're just kind of like, I don't want to talk about it. Yeah. Those kind of situations. And I think, honestly, with how things have been going recently for me, I think that's the one that's kind of resonating with the most right now.
Yeah, like, so when I heard that, I was like, this is exactly how I am. Like, I don't like that confrontation. I'd rather that everyone get along. But when you're put in those positions where it's like you have to speak up and whatnot, it's like, oh man, all right, how do I do this?
Yeah. I think that's definitely true for a lot of people. Like, I think a lot of people, especially a lot of people I talk to, it's like, well, I don't want to really deal with it. I don't want to talk about it. Or if it in the opposite way, if someone comes up to you, is like, hey, we got to talk about this, and you're just like, I want
to. The one I hate the most is, I need to talk to you tomorrow. Or
it's like, just talk to me today.
Yeah, like, okay, what's about? We'll talk about it tomorrow. I'm like,
yeah. The text, we need to talk. It's like, just talk to me.
Call me now. And then you try and call them. It's like, pick up. I think of a worst possible scenario when stuff like that happens, and I just go in this downward spiral, and that way it prepares me, for whatever outcome. Like, I've already thought about this, in this situation. So whatever you got in here, I have a response, and I'm ready for it emotionally and verbally. But if it's not on that list, it's like,
yeah, that's the worst. Is when you go into situations like, all right, it could be X, Y, Z, it could be any of these things. I think I'll be okay, and then it's something completely different. And you're just like, uh, uh.
Yeah.
But,
And then but man, I also say though, one of the things that I've always admired about you is your ability of like just songwriting and your guitar playing. Like I had to go back and watch it again, and still to this day, I think that your demo on the all pedal is phenomenal.
oh, for the Slamurai. Yeah, I remember that one.
Ladies and gentlemen, it I just love the phrasing in that video so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like when you're like all your stuff that you write, because you've done so much. I think you've done like probably 90% of the videos for Legator. Like,
Mm-hmm.
walk me through like how do you do so much and none of it really sounds the same? Is it like just spur of the moment, or you're like, hey, I got this idea and I'm just going to run with it, or how do you get from like scratch to like something as awesome as that?
It definitely is a lot of times it is a spur of the moment type deal. Because especially with the Legator stuff, it's finding a balance between taking your time, but also putting it out in a efficient, timely manner.
Hmm.
So it's trying to strike a healthy balance between the two. And I think the nice thing about those demos is that one, they're only a minute long, right? So it's not as complicated as writing a fully fleshed out song. However, you only got a minute to do what you got to do. So, and because they're product demos, you usually it's showcasing whatever feature is on the guitar, whatever genre it is, not genre, but whatever style it's most likely going to be used for. So like if I'm showing off like some kind of 7-string whatever, I'm probably going to play something metal because most dudes reaching for a 7-string aren't going to be playing like pop music. If you are though, hit me up. But or like if I'm showing off like a 9-string, I'm not going to be playing some like smooth jazz. Like no one's going to be playing smooth jazz on a 9-string.
Oh man.
So I think with those product demos, the first thing I pay attention to is like, okay, well, what is this guitar probably going to be used for?
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, with Legator, 9 out of 10 times it's metal. So I just got to narrow down whatever kind of style of metal it's going to be. And also the nice thing about it being metal is that I've played in metal bands for a while. I have a lot of metal bands that I like to listen to and look to for influence. And it's kind of a beautiful thing because I'm not really limited to a certain style. Like if I were in a band, okay, we sound like this. We don't want to really branch out too far because then it's going to be too disjointed. With Legator, I can kind of get away with that. Like if I want this song to sound really power metal, I can do that. If I want the next song to be very deathcore or something, I could do that too. So I think the thing that helps me get a lot of those demos out really quick is the freedom to really write essentially whatever I want, and not be limited to this box that most bands put themselves in.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing that I look for when I'm writing demos is I usually would like to hit three key parts, and that's like a really cool intro, a really cool solo section, and some kind of really heavy section, be it a breakdown or just like a halftime part, something like that. Because usually in most metal songs, those three things are pretty quintessential.
And it's like you also kind of like hit, I guess, like also the capabilities of a lot of it, because it's like, you know, especially with things like TikTok, like people's attention spans are even shorter than ever. So you got to get that quick hook in. But then it's also, it shows like how clear the item, whether it's a guitar, a pedal, or anything, how it can punch through. But also like not just in the solo section part, but also like, hey, this is what it also sounds like in a heavier rhythm part as well.
Yeah. And I think the big thing that I like to focus on that I feel like a lot of players tend to overlook is still having it be catchy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, okay, well, here's a guitar demo, here's a product demo. I'm just gonna make it as riffy and shreddy as possible, so that this is I don't know what the logic is, to be honest. Because
Yeah.
like 9 out of 10 times, the person buying that guitar is probably not gonna be as good as that. Like if I'm buying a S series Legator, for like I don't know my nephew or something, he's
Hmm.
not gonna be able to play like I don't know, Matt Heafy. He's
Yeah.
probably not at that level yet, right? So
Hmm.
if I'm writing a product demo for something like the S series, I'm not going into it with the mentality of like, okay, well, I'm gonna shred someone's face off right now. I'm probably gonna lay back a little bit. I'll still put a solo section in, but the thing I'm going to focus on is catching someone's attention. Like, be that with a really memorable riff or a section of the solo that has a really memorable tagline or a hook, something like that.
Hmm. Yeah. One of my best friends always mentioned writing something that like where's the hook in it. It's
Hmm.
yeah, it's awesome that some people are amazing shredders and they can do amazing things with a guitar, but at the same time it's like you need to have that hook. Sometimes it's not always the amount of notes that you play, it's just how you play them. And one of the things that, like, as you were talking, the thing that just keeps popping in my head is when you're doing this, speaking about you, is that I keep hearing like intent. Like you always have this intent of when you're writing something, and that's awesome because then it's like you're actually thinking about a lot of this stuff, and it's like bringing the focus in. Like, okay, it's already cutting away a lot of this other stuff. It's like, all right, this is where almost like the homework. This is what I need to work on, or this is where I need to put my energy into, instead of just trying to do whatever and see what hits.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
and speaking of metal, transitioning into GhostLife, you guys got to perform with Dragged Under. Do tell how
Hmm.
that went.
That was a very interesting experience. I'm gonna start there
Yeah.
because, um, so I was actually out with this company called Mortis Viventi. I
Mm-hmm.
was out with them doing the festival circuit. Like we were going from festival to festival, helping with these festivals. So got when we got asked to play that show,
Mm-hmm.
um, when we got asked to play that show, I was already confirmed for this month-long trek from California to Chicago to Virginia, all these different places. And that show was going to land on a day where I was in Kentucky.
Mm.
And the show got booked. It was like, hey guys, we got the show. And I was like, we got a problem because I'm going to be in Kentucky.
Oh
And
man.
we were trying to figure out some kind of solution. I was like, do I just not go on this trip? I can't just not go. We tried looking for a fill-in. Nobody we in our circle was really available to do it. So I go to my supervisor. I was like, hey man, like I got this show coming up. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna be able to do like the last leg of this thing because I got to be back home for the show. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it, man. I'll just fly you there and fly you back. And I'm just like,
What?
okay. Sure. And he's like, you're lucky. I found a round trip right now. Super affordable. You're good. And I was like,
That
awesome.
that's awesome.
So we get into Kentucky. We set up for the festival. As soon as we're done setting up, I beeline to the airport, fly home, wake up the next day. I don't think we even had a practice. I don't remember if we
Mm.
actually practiced or not for the show. But we get in, we load in, we play our set, and I immediately am gone back.
Oh man.
So like it was a very like go 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 thing. I land back, I walk into the festival grounds like, great, you're back. Let's go to work. It's like sick.
Oh man.
So it was a very my I remember my supervisor telling me, it's like, man, you're a real rock star, you know? You fly out for a show and then fly out for another thing. It's like, I guess, man, I guess.
Oh
But it was
man.
a cool time. It was a good show. It's always a good time to see the Rivals guys too. They're from my hometown as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh man.
yeah.
They
Hi,
like
Mickett, if you're watching
like
this.
I mentioned with them, they know how to put on a show. They
Hmm.
like they had this one section where it was kind of like almost like a drum off type thing, but it was super entertaining. Like watching that,
Hmm. Oh, where they
like
bring the toms out?
yeah,
Yeah.
When I saw that, I looked at my wife and I was like, this is entertainment. It's not just, again, the music's one part, but you have that entertainment factor as well. And this is really good. And she's like, yeah,
Yep.
she fully agreed. Oh man. So did you get to watch the rest of the show, or like as soon as you were done your set, you had to leave?
I got to watch Rivals set, and that was about it.
Oh
Because
man.
we started the show.
Mm-hmm.
I was loading up or offloading and then putting all our stuff away. And then as soon as we were done, I was like, okay, well, I got a little bit of time to kill. I can at least catch Rivals set, because by that point, I think I forget which band was not on that bill, but it was only 4 bands on that show.
Yeah,
I
there
think it
was
was us. Glass Times was on there for sure.
the
Because I caught a little bit of their set like while I was going in and out.
Because there was one that didn't play here. I think it was the Seafloor Maria.
That sounds correct. Yeah, it might have been that one.
Yeah.
But I did catch a little bit of Rivals. I didn't get to catch Dragon Under, but I've seen them before, and like, Fluff's a good dude. I forget what the singer's name is.
Tony.
Yeah, I think him and Mel are tight too, so they get to powwow a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I was bummed because I really wanted to see them. That last album they put out was, yeah.
And so, with that, like going into things like Legator, like how'd that come about where Legator was like, hey, you're going to do not all, but like, were you just like the person in the right time, right place to do a lot of the product demos for that? Or was it something that they're like, was it your idea? Like how did you get tied into being, and from my perspective, almost the person who's been doing, again, like 90% of the demos for Legator?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Legator has kind of always been this very interesting right place at the right time thing for me. Because even when I first got in contact with Legator, it was when one of my old bands that actually got sponsored by Legator. Because at the time we had a whole like press kit, we had a bunch of fans and this and that, whatever. And that's how I got my foot in the door with Legator initially. And then when that project fell apart and we hopped in Ghosts, we kept the connections. Like, hey, well, we're not in this band anymore, but we're in this other band that's going on this 5-week tour. That's still pretty cool. And they're like, yeah, that is cool. And so I go over there to the warehouse like the day before we leave for this tour. And I think I was just going to pick up a guitar because they played in like drop F. And they're like, I don't got nothing that can do that. I need a guitar that can do that. And they're like, we got you. And I'm just talking to Ryan for a little bit, just like about like life and the tour, and like he asking about how the business is doing. He's like, yeah, we're good, man. It's just like our graphics guy just quit, so we're trying to figure that whole thing out. And I was like, really? And like I'm a graphic designer as well, so I told him like, well, hey man, if you guys ever need any help with anything, like feel free to reach out. Like I got a whole portfolio I can show you. And after that tour, I started working pretty much full time with Legator. And then when the pandemic hit, I was still working with them a little bit, not as much. But I remember Ryan hit up Mel originally, actually. Because Mel was doing all the product demos for Fortin. Mm-hmm. So Ryan hits up Mel, is like, hey man, like we've got this Lucas Mann signature and I can't send it to Lucas Mann because he's in Texas and there's a pandemic. Do you think you could write the demo for this? And Mel's like, no, but you know who can. And then that's when it came to me. And like this is such a funny experience to me as well, because I don't listen to Rings of Saturn. Yeah. It's not my cup of tea. But I get this Lucas Mann guitar. It's a 9-string guitar. First of all, it's like I've played 7, but not 9. Mm-hmm. This is ridiculous. He's got it tuned to like double drop A or something. And I was like, okay, I can figure this out. Sure, no problem. So I go on YouTube. I listen to a couple Rings of Saturn songs. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, I kind of understand their like not their formula, but their like how they structure songs.
Their
like
motif-ish.
Fast part, melodic part, heavy part, lots of like dissonant harmonies. Got it. So I write the demo, and like if I'll link you the Lucas Mann demo if anybody cares to listen to it. But I write it out. I get it back to them almost that same night. It's like, all right, well, what do you guys think of this? I don't know if this will work. And they're like, this is amazing. You can do this? I was like, yeah. And it worked out because like we got to get the demo out. Lucas Mann actually reshared the demo. He's like, this is sick. Which I thought was kind of cool. And then just from there, I was like, okay, well, if you can do this, man, like we'd love to have you writing the product demos for all the new stuff. And then to this day, I'm still writing all the product demos for all the new guitars that come out.
Oh man, yeah. The 10-year anniversary ones. Oh my goodness. They're
we had a lot of fun with those.
So clean. But that's awesome. And ladies and gentlemen, Ryan is a phenomenal human being. Like he's one in a million individuals. He's a real genuine good dude.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. That's just awesome. And to think a little 5-year-old getting an acoustic guitar to being able to play a show opening for Dragged Under. You got a new single out. You got the music video I love. I can tell that you guys had a blast making that music video.
Mm-hmm.
Was that your idea or was that AJ's or Mel's?
Are we talking about the video for Out of Time, the new single?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. I think most of the video ideas are Mel's ideas. Because he's like the video guy. If I didn't mention it, the product demos, like Mel does all the video work. That's why they look so good. But yeah, usually like 9 out of 10 times the video ideas are Mel's. I think the only video idea I had was the one for In My Head because it was like a story-based thing, and it's like, okay, well, this is the story I want to tell. I would like to be able to tell, and it's like, yeah, cool. Everything else we've done has been Mel's ideas, like the Uncomfortable video, the Out of Time video. The Out of Time video was like a culmination of all the live shows that we had played leading up to that point, as well as just footage of us hanging out at the OC Fair. Because we got asked to play at the OC Fair. It's like, all right, well, let's shoot some B-roll here. Might as well. And it ended up making the video a lot more fun.
Yeah. I could say, and again, going back to it just brings back to that capturing magic of like the original, like early or mid 90s to 2000s, like Sum 41, Blink 182, Newfound Glory, all those guys, where, you know, again, if those songs were released today, would they have the same effect? I don't know. The world was definitely in a different place back then, but it just hit. But at the same time, like, here you guys are, and at the close, we're a few days away from 2023, but you're still capturing that essence, that magic, that, you know, that feel good, amazing, enjoyable sound that you guys have. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's something that you really can't manufacture.
Yeah, we definitely try and have a lot of fun with the music, especially like myself and Mel coming from metal bands, like predominantly. A lot of times those projects were very like, well, we have to take ourselves seriously. We have to be the like tough guys like that like can't show any emotion because we got to be cool. We got to be tough. And like, you do that for so long, it's like, okay, no, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the cool guy. I just want to have fun. I'm naturally just like a silly guy. I like to make people laugh. I like to do a lot of stupid things. And I think this is the first project where like that really gets to shine. And Mel is also like that too. Mel will likes to do a lot of stupid stuff too. And I think this is the first project where we actually just get to have fun and not really take ourselves as seriously. And I think that helps. It helps the dynamic of the band a lot because none of us are like too cool for each other. We're all idiots and we all understand that.
Yeah.
And we can all like just be good dudes to each other. And then when you're at a show, you can have a little bit more fun. You can joke with the crowd. You can like, if you mess up, you can just be like, "Ooh," and like not think much of it. And like people see that kind of stuff. If they see you having fun on stage, they see you having fun just existing, it's infectious. Like people want to have a good time. And so I think that was the big thing that I really stressed on this last tour that we were on. It's like, treat every show the same, whether we're playing to 10 people or 1,000 people. We got to treat it the same. And there was always like at least a few people that would come up to the shows like, oh, I loved your guys' energy. I think you guys were so much fun, this and that. And it really translates.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that, like, again, like what we need more of, is just there's nothing wrong with having something that's a heavier and whatnot, but when you have that vibe of just negativity, like people notice, people notice a bad show and whatnot, and even when you're not feeling it one night or something like that, it's like, okay, but you have other individuals around you that you can feed off of and, get you to where you need to be to make it an enjoyable experience. And, also just to have, that creativity, that music that's positive and it's enjoyable, that you can have a good time. A lot, like, you don't have to take yourself serious so much, like, all the time. Like, if you can't learn to laugh at yourself, like, you're going to dig yourself into an early grave. And that's why it's awesome to have, you guys doing what you're doing. And with that, like, would you say, does Promotive have a goal in mind as far as like a message or like an end state or like a goals that you guys are trying to achieve? Or are you guys just like kind of going with, this is who we are and we're evolving as we get older and this is the art that we enjoy making?
I would say it's a balance of both. I do think that the band as a whole likes to spread a more positive message. The name, even like when I first came up with it, was Promotive. It's like pro motivation. It eventually became Promotive, like stylized like that. But the whole idea is like pro motivation, like things that want to help you keep going. Like that first single we put out, Tired, is about wanting to escape from mundane life, escape from routine, escape from this feeling of being trapped or directionless, and wanting to break free of that and really find the things that make you happy and just really like find your passions and your calling. And I think that message is still at the core of what we do, just wanting to spread positivity and just make people happy and make people laugh. And I think it's taken on a little bit more of a goofy persona in recent years, but that's just who we all are, and I think that's the most honest version of ourselves that we can be. So I would say at the core, it's just wanting to spread positivity and joy and give people something to laugh at.
And that right there, I think, is the key, is just like being true to yourself. Like, I think a lot of times, especially with today, everyone's like trying to be different and stuff like that. But at the same time, if you are true to yourself and you're expressing yourself, like, it's going to come out genuine. It's not going to be force fed or anything like that. And people are going to resonate more with that than with you trying to be something that you're not. And with that, I mean, that's something that can only come from, people who are genuine about their art. So that's awesome. I'm glad that you guys are still around and that you're still putting out music and, that tour that you guys were doing. We're on the East Coast over here, so, maybe one day catch you guys live or something like that.
We're working on it. We might. I think there are gears turning right now to get us somewhere on the East Coast next year. I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't have all the details just yet, but I know that we are in talks of getting our way out there soon. So, maybe.
Well, definitely keep me updated on that. And, man, Jacob, it has been a blast having you on here. A lot of stuff, that we've heard about throughout the years, so like finally connecting a lot of the dots. And it's always good to see and talk to you. Like, it really is.
Likewise.
So, best way to support you would be how?
I think the best way to support myself as well as the band is just like check us out on Spotify, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, all those things. Spread the word. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share your pets, things like that. That's honestly the best way to support us, is just keep spreading the word.
Awesome. I'll be sure to make sure that all those links are down below. And again, Jacob, thank you so much for doing this. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 2 of Breakdown Theory. And I will try and do my best to make sure that we're not waiting another year for the next episode.